remember what it was like to be 9. Well, this is kind of an interesting area, so I had the idea for Home Alone on the Mac. That'd be good. What if I did a movie that starred?
For over 30 years, a hidden detail in Home Alone has gone unnoticed, buried so seamlessly, even the most devoted fans missed it. It's not a clumsy stunt or a forgotten prop. It's something far more unsettling. A quiet moment that, once seen, reshapes everything you thought you knew about the film. How did it stay hidden for so long? Today, we uncover the truth behind one of cinema's most overlooked secrets. It's easy to miss something when everything else seems perfect. However, to truly grasp how this one detail went unnoticed, it's worth asking, how did Home Alone become the kind of film people still obsess over decades later? Let's rewind for a second. The enduring legacy of Home Alone. When Home Alone came out in November 1990, no one expected it to become one of the most re-watched holiday movies of all time. The movie wasn't all that spectacular, you know? No famous actors, no crazy action scenes, or anything like that. But the movie had a really simple concept that everyone loved. What if a kid's family accidentally left him at home during the holidays? The story idea for the movie had quite an interesting story to it. According to John Hughes, a renowned writer of works like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and The Breakfast Club, the idea came to him when he was preparing for a vacation. Like any parent, he was frantically double-checking his list, making sure he didn't forget anything. That's when a funny thought crossed his mind. In his own words in an interview with Times, he recalled, "I was going away on vacation and making a list of everything I didn't want to forget. I thought, well, I'd better not forget my kids. Then I thought, what if I left my 10-year-old son at home? What would he do?" Most of the film was shot around Chicago. That famous red brick McAllister house was a real home in a quiet suburb called Winnetka. The interiors, like the attic and basement, were built on a set inside an unused high school gym nearby. It's the kind of practical movie making you don't see as much these days. When Home Alone premiered the week before Thanksgiving, it didn't look like a guaranteed hit. But then, it started climbing and didn't stop. It held the #1 spot at the US box office for 12 straight weeks. By the time its run ended, it had made over $476 million worldwide. Not bad for a film that cost around $18 million to make. For years, it held the record as the highest-grossing live-action comedy in history. But the box office numbers are only part of the story. What really made Home Alone stand out was how much it resonated with people. Parents related to the stress of traveling with a big family. And everyone loved the chaotic energy of a boy defending his home from 2 clueless burglars using nothing more than toys, paint cans, and household traps. Of course, none of this would have worked without Macaulay Culkin. At just 8 years old, he became the face of the film. His portrayal of Kevin McAllister felt natural, funny, mischievous, and surprisingly tender in moments when it mattered. This was his breakout role, and it shot him to international fame. He wasn't playing a character, he was Kevin. But it wasn't all on Culkin. The soundtrack also added another layer of magic to the movie. The soundtrack composer, John Williams, wasn't originally part of the project, but once he came on board, everything changed. The main song, Somewhere in My Memory, quickly became a classic. It just made everything feel a little more magical. Whether Kevin was decorating the tree or realizing he missed his family, the score pulled you in. Today, Home Alone is more than a movie. It's more like a tradition. Every December, people revisit it with the same excitement they had as kids. It's on streaming platforms, cable channels, DVD collections, and in many cases, passed down to the next generation. It's easy to assume a film this polished wouldn't miss a beat. But that's exactly why what we're about to show you feels so unexpected. Home Alone was made with what some call old-school movie magic. Instead of leaning on computer effects, the crew built what they needed. Most of the traps were done practically. Foam paint cans were used in the swinging scenes. Stunt doubles carefully choreographed each fall. Even the iron drop on Marv's face had to be timed with precision. Nothing about it was careless. Even when weather conditions changed, the snow had to look the same to keep the illusion intact. That's where continuity comes in. In filmmaking, continuity is the system used to make sure everything lines up from scene to scene. It's why characters wear the same clothes in back-to-back shots, or why a glass of milk doesn't magically refill between cuts. It's one of those things you don't really notice, unless something goes wrong. And when it goes wrong, sharp-eyed viewers usually catch it. Some mistakes are easy to spot, like a visible camera crew reflection. Others are more subtle, a clock that jumps forward too quickly, or a missing prop. Most of the time, they're harmless. In fact, fans often find them fun to point out. They're part of the experience. Still, it's impressive how few bloopers show up in Home Alone, especially considering how chaotic some scenes are. The airport dash, the booby trap setups, the outdoor stunts. These scenes involved a ton of moving parts. And yet, the film holds together incredibly well. That's why what we're about to explore is so surprising. With all the eyes on Home Alone for more than 30 years, fans, critics, YouTubers, trivia lovers would think every single frame had been picked apart. And to some extent, that's true. People have talked about everything from how Kevin paid for groceries to the logistics of the tarantula scene. Some bloopers are funny, some are technical. A few have become small legends in their own right. However, despite all the rewatches, one particular mistake went largely unnoticed. Not because it wasn't on screen, but because it blended so naturally into the chaos. It sat right there, hiding in plain sight, tucked inside the logic of the story. Which leads us to the big question. How did a film known for its precision and charm, crafted by Hollywood veterans, let something that important slip by? That's what we're about to uncover. First, let's start with what usually gets noticed, because the real blooper is hidden behind the ones we've seen 100 times. The blooper hunt, what fans usually notice. When people talk about Home Alone, they mostly remember the fun stuff. Kevin slapping aftershave on his face, Harry and Marv getting clobbered by booby traps, and that quiet reunion scene by the Christmas tree. But over the years, as the movie's been rewatched, on VHS, cable, DVD, and now streaming, fans have started to notice a few things that weren't meant to be part of the experience. We're talking about the classic bloopers, the small details that slipped through editing, continuity errors, prop mistakes, weird visual hiccups that happen fast but linger in your mind once you've seen them. And the funny part is, these goofs haven't changed the movie. If anything, they've added to its charm. They've become part of the Home Alone tradition, like trying to catch something new each time you watch. Let's look at some of the most talked about goofs hiding in plain sight. In one early scene, Buzz grabs a slice of pizza. It looks like he's holding it with his left hand. But then the camera cuts, and it's in his right. It flips back again when the angle changes. Nothing major, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. Was it a mistake in filming or an editing oversight? Either way, the slice of pizza now has its own small legend in the Blooper Hall of Fame. Next, there's a wardrobe mystery hiding in an emotional scene. Later in the movie, Kevin walks to church for a moment of peace and reflection. It's a quiet, emotional break from the chaos. But something strange happens when he leaves. He's wearing one pair of pants when he exits the church, and somehow ends up in a different pair moments later while preparing for the big showdown with the burglars. It's not super obvious unless you're watching closely, but it's there. Who could forget the stair sledding scene? The stair sled scene is unforgettable, and it has one weird detail. In this scene, Kevin places a toboggan at the top of the stairs, takes a running start, and flies down through the front door. But if you slow it down, you'll notice something strange. The door at the bottom of the stairs is open in one shot, then closed, then open again. So, which is it? Did the door open on its own? Was it a continuity slip? Probably the latter. But that little moment still makes people scratch their heads and maybe laugh. Okay, let's talk about that signature M and where it should have landed. This one is a favorite among sharp-eyed fans. When Harry grabs the red-hot doorknob, it's clearly turned sideways in his hand. But later, when we see the M mark burned into his skin, it's sitting perfectly upright. So how did it get there? Unless Harry rotated his hand mid-burn, which would have made it worse, the branding shouldn't look like that. It's a funny little detail, and once pointed out, it becomes one of those "wait a second" moments. Bloopers aren't limited to the final cut. The real laughs were often off-camera. Want to know what didn't make it into theaters? The behind-the-scenes moments are worth a look. Behind-the-scenes fun and gag reel energy. Though most of the official bloopers didn't make it into the final cut, a few behind-the-scenes moments have become fan favorites over the years. And of the most talked about is the tarantula scene. In this scene, Marv sneaks into the house and ends up face-to-face with Kevin's older brother's pet spider. At that moment, Kevin gently places the tarantula on Marv's face, then lets out a loud scream to scare him even more. And to be honest, that was a real tarantula crawling across actor Daniel Stern's face. He agreed to shoot the tarantula scene under one condition. Stern asked if they could take out the spider's stinger, but the animal trainer quickly shut that down. If they removed it, the tarantula wouldn't survive. Not exactly what Stern wanted to hear. Still, the crew reassured him it was safe, and Stern, being a team player, agreed to go for it. The funniest part is that tarantulas don't have ears, so that allowed him to scream without affecting the spider. Next, there was a moment where acting literally crossed the line. During the scene where Harry grabs Kevin and threatens him, Joe Pesci got a little too in character. He accidentally bit Macaulay Culkin's finger, hard enough to leave a scar. Culkin later confirmed the story and said the bite wasn't fake. It actually happened on set. He still has the mark to prove it. One of the most iconic moments wasn't even supposed to happen. Sometimes forgetting the script makes movie magic. Kevin's famous aftershave scream wasn't actually planned that way. In the script, Macaulay Culkin was supposed to slap his cheeks, then drop his hands before screaming. But during filming, he forgot to lower them. Instead, he screamed with his hands still on his face, and it worked. It looked so good they kept it. That one little mistake ended up becoming the most iconic moment in the whole movie. There were also times where Pesci played by his own rules and nobody stopped him. Joe Pesci brought serious energy to the set, but he was known for doing things on his own terms. He played Harry, one of the two bumbling burglars chasing Kevin throughout the movie. According to one story, when the crew called him one early morning for a shoot, he said he wouldn't come until 9 a.m. because he had an early tea time on the golf course. The crew adjusted the schedule around him. Nobody fought it. That's how things worked. There were also plenty of gag reel moments where Pesci would accidentally mix up character names on set. Stern would let slip a swear word during takes, and Culkin flubbed lines too. These moments made it into gag reels, showing the crew was having as much fun behind the camera as the audience had watching. These off-camera moments gave the set energy. It wasn't always perfect, but everyone was locked in and having fun. And that shows in the final product. All these classic bloopers are visible. They happen right in front of you. You can pause the screen and point them out. But the one we're about to reveal, that's a different story. The huge blooper revealed. There's a scene in Home Alone that most people remember instantly. In the scene, Kevin's hand is filled with groceries, while he walks home like he's got everything under control. He's managing life alone, feeling independent. Then, out of nowhere, both plastic bags tear open at the same time, spilling everything onto the sidewalk. It's funny, but also kind of frustrating to watch. However, there's something specific most fans never noticed. You see, it wasn't a lucky take or a real accident. That entire moment was planned and staged. If you watch closely, you'll see what really happened. Now, it's Kevin's first solo shopping trip. He's paid for everything himself, used coupons, handled the register like a pro, and walked out with 2 full plastic bags. He's proud of himself, and we are too, right? Then, as he's walking down the sidewalk, the bags both rip open. Groceries fall everywhere. But hold up, what looks like an accident was actually a carefully timed setup. If you pause the scene and look closely, you'll notice Kevin's fingers are pinching something strange. Thin strings connected to the bag handles. At the right moment, he pulls the strings, the handles give out, and the bags collapse on cue. The director gave a signal, Culkin gave a tug, and the scene played out as planned. This particular scene has actually been confirmed in multiple behind-the-scenes sources. The crew rigged the bags with clear fishing line and had Culkin pull them at the exact moment they needed. That made sure both bags split at the same time, creating a clean and consistent shot. Once you know it's a setup, you can't unsee it. First, the bags don't stretch or show wear before tearing. They snap suddenly with no resistance. Both sides rip in sync, almost like someone hit a button. Second, if you look closely at the groceries in the bags, it's pretty clear most of them were props. The milk cartons, juice containers, and boxes don't move like they have any real weight. When the bags rip, there's almost no tug on Culkin's arms, and everything hits the ground way too gently. If those bags had been packed with real food, they would have sagged or stretched before breaking. Instead, they fell perfectly, almost like the whole thing was set up to break clean for the camera. So why do you think this blooper went unnoticed for so long? The thing is, it's not hidden, but it's easy to miss. The scene is built to keep your attention on Kevin, not the mechanics behind him. For starters, the timing is quick. The bags rip and fall in under 2 seconds. Viewers are too focused on Kevin's reaction to start analyzing the physics of plastic handles. And then there's the editing. It's tight and clean. There's no slow buildup or awkward pauses. You're locked into the rhythm of the story. When the bags hit the ground, you feel the impact, not the setup. It also helps that we're emotionally tuned in. Kevin's been handling things alone, and this moment is about things falling apart, literally. The spill is meant to show that even when he tries to be responsible, the world can still trip him up. That message lands, so we don't look any deeper. And maybe most of all, people watch Home Alone for the laughs, not the technical details. It's a comfort movie. You're in it for the ride, not the frame-by-frame breakdown. Most of the bloopers in Home Alone are small. Things like mismatched outfits or background props that shift around. They don't change much, but this one is different. And now that you know the trick, you might want to go back and watch it again. You'll see the strings, you'll notice the props, but you'll probably still smile because it works. It still fits the moment. And in the end, it doesn't ruin anything. If anything, it makes you appreciate how much effort went into a scene that most people assumed was spontaneous. That's the kind of detail that makes Home Alone more than a holiday favorite. It's a movie built with care, and even its hidden bloopers have stories of their own. Now, while most fans focus on Kevin's solo adventures, there's a split-second scene back at the house that deserves a much closer look. The head-counting moment. You've seen the frantic chaos as the McAllisters head to the airport. But there's one subtle moment that quietly sets the whole thing in motion. Everyone is half awake, it's still dark out, and the front yard is packed with people getting into vans. A cousin does a head count. The adults nod, and off they go. Seems simple enough. But years later, a fan theory popped up online that gave that moment a second life. And hearing it, the whole movie setup makes a lot more sense. According to one user on Reddit, the total number of family members leaving for the airport that morning was 17. The plan was to split them into 2 rental vans, 8 in one, 9 in the other. That way, they'd all fit. But Kevin wasn't included in either van. He was in the attic, asleep. So what exactly happened? Because the count added up to 17 before they left, everyone assumed the split worked. But since Kevin was missing, that left only 16 people heading to the airport. Both vans unknowingly left with 8 passengers instead of the planned 8 and 9. And because 8 seemed like a fair number in a big group, no one thought to ask questions. Each group figured Kevin was with the other. It's an easy mistake to make when there's that much hubbub. But it's also incredibly clever writing. The film doesn't explain it outright, but when you look closely, the numbers tell a different story. The chaos continues at the airport. You'd think that somewhere between checking luggage, going through security, and boarding the flight, someone would have realized something was off. But again, no one slows down to double-check the tickets or make sure each kid is accounted for. The family is already late. They're focused on not missing the plane. At that point, the goal is to move fast and figure things out later. That sense of urgency covers up the mistake long enough for the flight to take off. It all comes back to a small assumption that made a big impact. 17 family members were supposed to go. The count looked right at first. The groups split into 2 vans. Nobody took time to ask, "Wait, did we actually see Kevin get in?" And since both vans left with 8 people each, no one realized the numbers didn't actually add up. The number arrangement innocently threw everything off. It was a trick of math and timing, and it let the error slip by without raising alarms. This part of the movie hits home because it's believable. If you've ever traveled with a big group, you know how easy it is for things to get chaotic. It's not so hard to lose track of a person in the middle of all that movement. And then, somewhere mid-flight, Kate realizes what's happened. She stops, her face falls, and everything seems to go silent. You can feel the panic rising. It's not a big deal, just that feeling when you realize you messed up big time. A little mistake turned into a disaster. By the time it clicked, the plane had already landed. The movie didn't make Kate look like a bad mom. Instead, it shows how things can go wrong even when you think everything's in order. Fans have always loved the traps, the jokes, and the action. But this quiet moment shows how well the movie balances all of that with logic and emotion. The headcount scene is quick, but it's the reason Kevin gets left behind. You might not catch it the first time, but once you do, it changes how you see everything that follows. But what if Kevin's absence wasn't the only thing overlooked? Ready for the twist no one saw coming? Let's talk about a plane ticket that quietly vanished and might explain everything. The missing ticket. Nobody saw coming. In the scene where Kevin gets into an argument with Buzz over pizza, the kitchen turns into a mess. Soda spills, food flies, and the entire family gets worked up. Peter, Kevin's dad, tries to clean it up. He grabs napkins, passports, and anything within reach and tosses a wad of it all into the kitchen trash bin. What you might not notice at first is that one of the things he throws away is Kevin's plane ticket. It's briefly visible on screen, red and white, partially stained by the spilled milk. Once it's in the trash, someone tosses another napkin over it, and the ticket is gone. At first glance, it might not seem like a big deal. But if you think about it, that missing ticket plays a huge role. The next morning, the family's total tickets match their head count. No extras at all. That's why no one questions a missing ticket, because Kevin's was already out of the mix. He's not there, and neither is his boarding pass. This little detail fills a gap that's bugged some fans for years. How does a family go through the airport, check their bags, hand over tickets, and not realize one kid is missing? The answer is in the trash can. Most people believe it was part of the chaos. There's no sign Peter noticed what he was throwing away. Everything in that moment is about wiping down the mess and calming the room. That said, some fans have floated a darker theory. Maybe Peter saw Kevin's name on the ticket and tossed it anyway, frustrated after the pizza fight. The movie doesn't give any clues that he did it intentionally, but that hasn't stopped people from wondering. Whether it was meant to be noticed or not, the scene works on a deeper level. It helps explain why no one catches the mistake. It also fits with the way the whole movie is structured. Small accidents leading to bigger consequences. What makes it even more fascinating is that the movie doesn't point it out. No one talked about the missing ticket at all. But it's there, hidden in the background, just like real-life mistakes often are. Turns out, the more you watch, the more Home Alone reveals itself. Let's peel back the layers a little more, because there's still plenty hiding in plain sight. Other hidden details. By now, we've covered the big bloopers and behind-the-scenes secrets, but Home Alone has even more tucked away for fans who know where to look. Some of these details are subtle, some are funny, and a few are surprisingly thoughtful. Remember the movie Kevin watches? The one with the line, "Keep the change, you filthy animal," which looks like an old-school gangster film from the 1930s. That particular film, Angels with Filthy Souls, doesn't actually exist. It was made specifically for Home Alone. The crew created it as a short parody of old gangster films, and it was shot in a single day on a small soundstage. The idea was to give Kevin something intense and over-the-top to watch while home alone, and it worked. For years, people thought it was a real vintage film. Even some celebrities admitted they had no idea it was fake. That's how well it was done. Also, there's that quick scene where Kevin picks up the photo of Buzz's girlfriend and goes, "Buzz, your girlfriend. Woof!" It's a funny moment, but the story behind it is actually kind of sweet. The filmmakers didn't want to make fun of a real girl, so instead, they dressed the art director's son in a wig and used him for the photo. It was a funny way to deliver the joke without making anyone feel bad. Honestly, you'd never know it wasn't an actual female unless someone told you. Even though it had some controversies along the way, Home Alone still holds a warm spot in pop culture. That said, not everyone walked away from the film feeling warm and fuzzy. Over the years, two key debates have kept popping up, and they're worth looking at: rebellion or bad parenting. Some parents and critics didn't love how Kevin handled being left alone. Sure, he's clever and resourceful, but he's also a kid who breaks the rules, talks back, and even runs out of a store with a toothbrush without paying. For some, that raised concerns about whether the movie was sending the wrong message. Was it making disobedience look cool? Was it celebrating a child ditching authority figures? On the flip side, plenty of people saw it differently. They argued that the film isn't about rule-breaking at all. It's about a kid who learns to stand on his own when no one else is around. Kevin didn't only fend off burglars, he faced his fears, took care of himself, and even admitted that he missed his family. This part of the movie is what made it so good, and for many, that message far outweighed a stolen toothbrush. And then, of course, there's the traps. Watching Kevin take down Harry and Marv is so hilarious, no doubt. But when you actually think about it as an adult, the injuries are pretty wild. Some critics have gone as far as to call it extreme slapstick, pointing out that these traps could have caused real damage, like hospital-level damage. A hot iron to the face, a nail through the foot. That's not just funny. It's kind of a bit too much. And yet, in the film, it's all treated like harmless fun. That's the balance Home Alone pulls off. It's a bit silly, but some of the gags hit harder than expected, especially through adult eyes. Still, most fans chalk it up to movie logic. After all, Harry and Marv don't really behave like real burglars. They're exaggerated on purpose, more like living cartoons. That's why they survived all those traps without it ever feeling too serious. If Home Alone came out today, would we still see Kevin as a clever hero, or would the McAllisters be trending online for child neglect? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. To enjoy more content like this, tap on the next video on your screen.